Welcome back to Grasping the Gridiron. As always, I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and thank you for listening. Today, we're back with episode 23, taking a look at our Week 11 game of the week, what's happening around the country, and what's happening in the Northwest. So, our game of the week this week, number 7 BYU travels to number 8 Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas. This game's set for Saturday, November 8th with a 9 a.m. kickoff here on the West Coast. The Cougars of BYU bring one of the nation's most balanced attacks into the matchup with, a really explosive offense for the Red Raiders on the opposite side for Texas Tech. And Texas Tech has an elite defense as well. Texas Tech averages 492.3 yards and 43.6 points per game. They rank 5th and 3rd in the FBS respectively in those metrics and boast one of the top rushing defenses in the country as well, giving up 74.6 yards per game. Quarterback Barron Morton leads the Red Raiders with 1,750 passing yards and 15 touchdowns, and then BYU counters with a powerful ground attack, averaging 216.6 rushing yards per contest, and they're led by running back L.J. Martin, who has 789 yards and 5 scores. The Cougars' defense ranks 16th nationally in scoring. They allow just 17 points per game, and both teams excel in the turnover margin, and where BYU is plus 10 and Texas Tech is plus 8. The Red Raiders defeated Kansas State last week 43-20, and BYU topped Iowa State 41-27. So some similar results last week, wins by about 20 points coming into this matchup. And after this matchup, both teams return home on November 15th, with Texas Tech hosting UCF and BYU welcoming TCU. So this one, with the elite defense that Texas Tech has, and with this one being in Lubbock, I really like the Red Raiders here, and I think Texas Tech gets this one done in the Week 11 game of the week. Now, taking a look at what's happening around the country, number 3 Texas A&M goes to number 22 Missouri. This one will be in Columbia, Missouri, and kickoff set for Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time here. And both teams bring top 20 offenses and stout defenses into the matchup, similar to the last game we were talking about. The Aggies average 459.3 yards and 37.8 points per game. They're led by quarterback Marcel Reed, who has 1,972 passing yards and 17 touchdowns. Missouri's offense ranks 14th nationally at 473.4 yards per game. They're powered by a strong rushing attack led by Ahmad Hardy, who's just been one of the best running backs in the country, quite frankly, and has 937 yards on the ground and 11 touchdowns. Defensively, the Tigers have been among the nation's best, ranking 5th in total defense with 242.3 yards per game and 13th in scoring defense with 16.8 points per game. Texas A&M counters with the country's top third down defense, allowing conversions just 22% of the time. And both teams also dominate time of possession. Missouri ranks 3rd nationally at 34 minutes and 44 seconds a game, while the Aggies sit 19th at 32 minutes and 11 seconds. Missouri is looking to bounce back after a 17-0 loss to Vandy, and Texas A&M rides their momentum after a 49-25 win over LSU. After this matchup, Missouri will host Mississippi State on November 15th, and Texas A&M will return home to face South Carolina the same day. In this one, I really like Texas A&M. I think Mike Elko and this Aggies team has it figured out and is playing a very repeatable brand of football and a very competitive brand of football. With their ability to run, their ability to have the play action, and then Marcel Reed's ability to scramble and extend plays. It reminds you of Lamar Jackson, and Coach Nick Saban said that as well. And I firmly believe that there are a lot of similar skill sets there. And, I'm going with Texas A&M here, even though this one's in Columbia. I really think the Aggies right now and A&M, I think they're playing some of the best football in the country. Next up, we've got number 2 Indiana heading to Penn State. This one's in University Park, Pennsylvania. Kickoff set for 9 a.m. Pacific time on Fox. And the Hoosiers you really enter as one of the most complete teams in college football. And, they have that number 2 ranking, but anyone that's watched them play understands the hype and really, really why this team can win the national championship this year. They boast the nation's top scoring offense with 46.4 points per game and the third ranked total offense with 504.9 yards per game. Quarterback Fernando Mendoza has been absolutely electric and looks to be a really promising player at the next level. He's thrown for 2,124 yards and 25 touchdowns while completing 72.3% of his passes. And then running back Kalen Black leads the ground game with 619 yards and 5 scores. And then Omar Cooper Jr. has emerged as just a really great wideout and Mendoza's favorite target with 693 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Defensively, the Hoosiers rank 7th nationally in total defense and 3rd in scoring defense. They allow just 10.8 points per game. The Hoosiers also lead the FBS with a plus 12 turnover margin and convert an impressive 58.2% on their third downs. Penn State has struggled offensively this season. They rank 107th in total offense, but they still average 31.5 points per game. Running back Katron Allen's been a bright spot. He has 688 rushing yards with 10 touchdowns. And then the Nittany Lions will look to bounce back after a 38-14 loss to Ohio State. And then Indiana is looking really, really dominant, and they come off of a 55-10 win over Maryland. Next up, the Nittany Lions visit Michigan State on November 15th, and Indiana returns home to host Wisconsin. I think Indiana rolls here, even in a tough road environment at Penn State. I think Kurt Cignetti and this Indiana team are a team that really, really could win the national championship, and a team that I like to contend for this national championship, especially as the weather gets colder all throughout the country, and things start to get nitty and gritty here in November and in December. Now back to the Pacific Northwest here. Number 9, Oregon travels to Iowa, and they'll face the Hawkeyes here in Iowa City, Iowa. This game, the kickoff set for 12:30 p.m. Pacific time on CBS, and this matchup features one of the nation's top offenses against one of the stingiest defenses. And we talk about stingy defenses, and Iowa really is there. But looking at that offense, Oregon ranks nationally in total, ranks 9th nationally in total offense, 483.9 yards per game, and 5th in scoring with 41.3 points per game. They're led by quarterback Dante Moore, who's thrown for 1,772 yards and 19 touchdowns this season, completing 71% of his passes. Just been really, really sharp this year. Running back Noah Whittington and freshman Jordan Davis power a Ducks ground game that averages 237 yards per game, and I really like the 1-2 punch that those two provide. I think it levels this offense out and gives them an ability to have a play action that really, really bites defenses, and then gives Dante Moore some some free ability to get out on the run and hit those open play action targets that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the great run game and the threatening there. Defensively, Oregon's been elite. They ranked 4th total in defense and 1st in pass defense, allowing just 124 yards per game through the air. Iowa, meanwhile, thrives on defense, and they have for quite some time. They rank 2nd nationally in total defense and 4th in scoring defense, giving up only 13.1 points per game. Offensively, the Hawkeyes have struggled through the air, but remain effective on the ground behind Kamari Moulton's 435 rushing yards this year. Both teams boast a plus 5 turnover margin and rank among the least penalized teams in the nation. Oregon will look to keep its CFP, their college football playoff hopes alive after a 21-7 win over Wisconsin, and Iowa aims to build its resume after a dominant 41-3 victory over Minnesota. And then next week, Oregon returns home to host Minnesota, and Iowa visits number 23 USC. In this one, I really like Oregon, while in a tough road environment in a game that I think is going to be incredibly competitive. I think that Oregon's still going to come in here, win, and keep their college football playoff dreams rolling, and keep their hopes of a national championship, continuous. And I think that that this team really has a shot to develop like an Ohio State did last year, later in the year, and potentially make a run at it here with Dan Lanning and Eugene. Number 23, Washington heads to Wisconsin in Madison. This game's set for a kickoff at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time on the Big Ten Network. The Huskies enter with one of the most balanced attacks. They rank 28th nationally in total offense with 438.6 yards per game, and quarterback Damon Williams has been sharp, throwing for 2,117 yards and 14 touchdowns with a 73.1% completion rate. And running back Jonah Coleman's just been one of the best in the country and one of my favorites to watch. He leads the ground game with 643 yards and 13 scores, and then overall, I think the name of the game here is going to be Wisconsin. They have just had a terrible season so far, and they averaged 12.5 points per game, and which is the lowest mark in the nation. So I think Washington's going to roll here, especially coming off some momentum from a 42-25 win over Illinois, and then Wisconsin is coming off a 21-7 loss to Oregon here, but. The Huskies will return home to host Purdue on November 15th, and the Badgers travel to number 2 Indiana that same day. And I think Washington's gonna roll here, even on the road in Madison. I think the Wisconsin offense just is not going to be able to get anything going, and Washington's going to be able to capitalize with their ground game and Damon Williams as well. So I've got the Huskies here. And our last game here, as Washington State has a bye and Boise State has a bye. Washington State will resume action November 15th at home against Louisiana Tech in Pullman. And then Boise State will resume action on the road November 15th at San Diego State in San Diego. But our last game here is Sam Houston, who is 0-8, at Oregon State, who's 2-7 and just got their last win against Washington State. And Oregon State will look to keep their momentum going with a 7 p.m. Pacific kickoff at Reser Stadium on the CW network. And, quarterback Malik Murphy has it's been interesting because he didn't really play and saw the limited action last week at Washington State, and they got their first win. So I'm interested to see what they end up doing at the quarterback position there. But the bright spot and the name of the game for Oregon State has been their ground game behind Anthony Hankerson. He has 805 rushing yards and 7 scores, and then if they can hit wide receiver Trent Walker, who's been their most reliable target, with 631 yards and 52 grabs, I think they'll be able to really get things going and potentially roll here off of some momentum against an 0-8 Sam Houston team that's just been very, very lackluster, to say the least, and they've never been able to sustain anything, and they've just averaged 18 points per game over their last 5 outings. So I've got Oregon State winning this one handily at home and getting their 3rd win of the season.